So, do we need to give it a moment for the face detection to settle in? This is a really quick preface to a conversation I had with Peter Karbe. He's the head of lens design at Leica in Wetzlar a couple of weeks ago. Not only is he responsible for camera lens systems, but for sport optics as well. I encourage you to stick with us all the way through. Peter is a quiet, unassuming man, but what he had to say is fascinating and makes comprehensible to me why I have had such a strong, instinctive reaction to the latest Leica glass. Hey everybody, I'm Hugh Brownstone for Three Blind Men and an Elephant, and I'm delighted to present to you today Peter Karbe. He's got a long title in German. I really like the German language, but I'm not good enough to repeat his full title. Instead, I'll simply tell you that he is the gentleman responsible for not only the optics design of all the SL lenses, but for sport optics at Leica as well. Peter, thanks for taking time to sit down with me.
It's a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you very much. Yes.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So I won't keep you long, but this is pretty exciting. We're in Wetzlar at Leica HQ in October, weeks, maybe months ahead of the official announcement of the Leica SL2. The thing about the SL2 is that Leica refers to it as a new icon. This is very, very interesting. This is a profound statement of where the company is going. And it's interesting to contemplate that while the M has been the icon for the company for so many years, technology evolves, lens design improves. There are things that can now be done that we couldn't do before. I'm going to ask you about that. But the Leica SL2 and the Leica SL lens line is the new icon, the new standard bearer. Yes. So, Peter, let's take it from the top. What were your design objectives for the SL lens lineup?
So the design objectives for this lineup was to realize highest performance lenses with autofocus implemented and for a production that is manageable so that we can perform each lens that we produce on the highest level. So this was the three objectives, I would say.
So you're saying that beyond the design, you had to make sure that it was producible.
Exactly.
And producible at scale with quality control.
Yes. So due to the fact that we set the bar higher regarding resolution and performance, and not only at infinity, but also in close focus. So the all-over performance was set higher for this system, set on a new level. We had to ensure that we can produce this, not only designing and do it in paper, but we want to have it in hardware. So we wanted to have best performance for the lenses. This is our heritage, that we always try to perform the best for all lenses we produce, not only as a brochure data, but also as a hardware, yes.
So there are two things that I want to unpack here, because these are really, really important. One, that you want to do it in hardware, and two, that you want to do it at a higher level. So to be very direct, when you say that you wanted to set a higher objective, do you mean that your ambition was to create a lens line for the SL and now the SL2 that performed higher than any other lens line currently in the company's portfolio?
Yes, that's right. So we said we want to be prepared for the megapixel race, I say, yes. So we don't, not only for the latest camera, but also for the future, if there is coming a higher resolution sensor. And so, so we said we want to have, or let's say different. Normally we publish MTF curves with 5 line pairs per millimeter, 10 line pairs, 20 line pairs, and 40 line pairs. And we always say 40 line pairs need to have 50% contrast. So
I just want to interrupt for a second to say that many MTF charts top out at 30 line pairs per millimeter.
Yeah, we from beginning, we always published 40 line pairs because 30 line pairs is a little less performing regarding resolution. And we said 40 line pairs need to have 50% contrast, then it's a perfect lens. This is
out at the edges.
At the edge. No, on axis and to the edges. Yes?
Yes.
For the whole field.
Yes.
And this is our concept we had for a long time. And for the SL primes, or we said we need 60 line pairs to have 50%.
I want to just repeat that because I've never heard this before, which could mean just that I'm ignorant. That's fine. It happens. But this is the first time I've heard a designer talk about 60 as opposed to even 50, which was already extraordinary high.
Yeah.
So to be clear, we're not talking about 50 line pairs per millimeter. We're talking 60.
60 line pairs, yes. And the reason for that was that we started with APS system. We said we want to have the same performance like 35 millimeter lenses. And so crop factor is 1.5 and 40 multiplied with 1.5 is 60. And so we applied this target for the APS system first. And then we said, okay, we need to keep the distance between the APS system and the professional full frame camera. We need to keep it. And so we said 60 line pairs for this SL system we want to have.
So I just want to interrupt. So were you responsible for the design of the TL lens line?
Too, yes. For all lenses.
Okay, are you okay with doing a fist bump? The reason why I say so is because I knew I liked that CL and I knew I liked those lenses, and the 23 millimeter and the 35 1.4 I think are brilliant.
Exactly.
So congratulations and thank you.
Thank you very much. And all lenses for the TL system are designed with the target 60 line pairs to have 50%.
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. It's interesting, guys. I'm not much of a pixel peeper. Those of you who are familiar with the channel know that that's true. You also know that even though my eyes are not what they were when I was a younger man, I'm still comfortable letting my eyes tell me what it is that I'm seeing, which is an interesting thing in this day and age. And I can see without pixel peeping that these are extraordinary lenses. I've been shooting with the 35 Summicron-SL2 SL this morning. Oh, great lens, great lens.
This is the best under the best. Yeah.
Now, we talked earlier, and it's not just about contrast, it's not just about resolution, it's about aberration. Yes. It's about focus breathing. So let's talk about the most difficult design challenges that you had with these lenses. And let's also place that in context of what you decided you could do with physical design and when and how you would use software to complement that.
Okay, so biggest challenge for us was to keep the performance from infinity to close focus,
as you said earlier,
on a high level, on the same high level. And so we had to look for an internal focusing concept that enables us to do so. And that enables us to use a stepper motor concept so that we have a fast autofocus system with a high performance. Because internal focusing means that the lens elements moves within the system and the aberrations will change by moving the lens element. But to control these aberrations, we use a double synchro drive. So we have two independent moving lens groups. And they compensate the aberrations. And so we could keep the performance very high, from infinity to close focus. With the targets for the Summicron line that we always have the magnification 1/5 as close focus position.
How does that compare to the M series? Because those traditionally have a longer minimum focus distance.
Yeah, the comparison to M is completely different to that, because we target M high performance with minimum size of the lens system,
which is fantastic.
Yeah. So for example, the Summicron 50 for M is the first lens we tried to perform like I described before with 60 line pairs, but we never published 60 line pairs because we don't want to confuse our customer. We stay with 40 line pairs, but if 40 line pairs has 80% contrast, you can be sure that the 60 line pairs will have 50% contrast. So,
gotcha.
So, and your question about software compensation of aberrations, yes, we use this because this is a good choice for some aberrations.
So there are two types of chromatic aberration that I typically will see in a lens: lateral and longitudinal, spherochromatic.
Yeah.
And we talked about this earlier. It's spherochromatic, which drives me nuts, because if I'm looking to get maximum shallow depth of field, as soon as it's out of focus, I'm seeing a little fringing. I won't say that I've seen that in these lenses yet. I haven't had enough time with them, but very high quality lenses, even today, I see that. And there are certain things that you can do in software when you're doing still images that you cannot do in video, correct?
Yes, that's correct. So we apply software image enhancement on a very low level. So there is not a must to apply it always, but you can optimize your images. Regarding the longitudinal color aberrations, and this is totally new, we reduce color aberrations to a certain amount that is not visible. So
really?
Yes, and that's the reason why we say apo.
Okay.
It's a real apo, and with a apochromatic correction, we could realize the 80% contrast for 40 line pairs. And so there is no color fringing in the defocus position. I could show you some pictures if you like.
No, I'm going to take some. I'm going to take some.
Yes, you will take some and make experience with spotlights, defocus, and you will see no color fringing.
He's getting me really excited now.
And it's on the highest level, the color correction. Regarding lateral chromatic aberrations, it's a kind of distortion, color distortion we can compensate by software. Yes.
Gotcha. We also talked about focus breathing, because the SL2, like the SL that preceded it, which you might argue was in some ways ahead of its time, this is a true hybrid camera.
Yes.
And in fact, guys, probably another video on this, but it's capable of shooting up to 10-bit 422 internal, 24 frames per second, 10-bit 420, 60 frames per second internal, and 10-bit 422, 60 frames per second external, correct?
Yes.
So I asked you about focus breathing,
yes.
and I asked you about how close is this to cine lenses. And I know cine lenses are manual focus only, so we don't need to talk about that, but there are differences.
Yes, I think we didn't target to minimize focus breathing as a most challenge, or as a must. But I think we could realize a good system with this double focusing synchro drive that breathing is an acceptable level. Regarding the performance in comparison to the cine lenses, I think we are very close by that what the cine lenses are able to do. Of course, our F number is a little lower. It's a T-stop about 2.2. But I think we are very close to that what the cine lenses perform in a very small size, I would say.
Well, that's interesting. Let's talk about size for a minute, because if you don't have a lens cap or a rear lens cap on it, which tells you what the focal length is, I'm having difficulty telling the sizes apart.
Yes, all these 7 lenses, we have 4 lenses already introduced, and we will introduce 3 more.
These are primes that we're talking
about. Yes. All these 7 lenses are based on a platform we applied. So that we can, this means that we have for all 7 lenses the same technology behind, the same concept, optical design concept, and even there are in some groups, in the tele group and in the normal focal length group and in the wide angle length group, we have several lens elements which are the same within this group. For both lenses, 75 and 90 has some lens elements in the same size or same shape, the same type of lens elements implemented. And so this is the reason that we said we want to have a platform, and platform means that we have equivalent parts, or Gleichteile in English, the same common parts or similar parts where we change a little bit. For example,
the base platform
the base platform is the same, but For example, the outer ring where the focal length is engraved, the difference is the engraving, so 75 and 90, but in principle it's the same part.
So you have lenses with the same width, with the same filter size?
Filter size and yes, the same focusing concept inside and all these things. Yes.
Let me ask you a different question about how you achieve the performance that you do. There are two manufacturers of which I'm aware who get excellent optical performance by using a larger than 35 millimeter image. Mm-hmm. Do you do that with your cameras, or are you keeping the image just to the 35 millimeter diagonal?
We keep it within this diagonal of the 35 millimeter format, yes.
Because your lenses actually look a lot smaller, yes, than some of these lenses.
Yes, we are not prepared to be used, or these lenses are not prepared to be used for larger formats also. No, I think this is always a balance between size, performance, and image circle. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Right. Do you have a favorite lens of the ones that you've developed?
I was often asked this question. I don't like to answer because most of the lenses I like. And once I said, oh, the 75 Summilux is not my preference. And the one I told, he said, Peter don't like the 75 1.4. And this is not true. My preference, I think, is...
How about I put it this way? If there were only one lens, yes, that you could have out of the SL line, okay, for you,
yes,
what would it be?
The 35.
That wasn't so hard, was it?
It wasn't so hard. The 35 has the best performance of all these 7, and they are all quite good. But this, due to the fact that this is the shortest focal length, but the same size like the others, the normal behavior is that the 35 focal length is the shortest of all. Yeah. The minimum size would have the minimum size, but we had the most space, and so we could perform best. Yes, and so I think the 35, the best lens ever made, I say. Yes.
Not that we're cocky or anything.
No, cocky?
No, cocky?
No.
No. Okay. Probably good that he doesn't know what I just said. Anyway, Peter, this is wonderful. I'm really excited for you. Guys, I did have a chance to shoot with a 35 earlier today. I have a couple of images from that. And it's interesting. You know, we talk about specifications all the time. How many dots, what resolution on a rear panel, on the EVF. Every now and again, I will take a shot with a camera and lens, and I look at it this far away on the back of a screen, but maybe it's 2 megapixels resolution, and I can tell the difference. I can already tell that I'm looking at something extraordinary. And when I took 2 shots earlier today with that 35 1.8, and I saw the difference. Congratulations, man.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Guys, for 3 Blind Men and an Elephant, I'm Hugh Brownstone. See you next time. So I said 35 1.8.
So, ich wusste gar nicht, dass du hier bist, Stefan.
It was 35 f2, Summicron. Okay, fine.